Hey, this is Bruce Boudreau, and you're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mack, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 203 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. We've got a jam-packed episode today, so we're going to get rolling quick on this one, but I'm going to toss it off to my co-host, Mr. Nick Manella. What's going on?
How we doing, boys? It is trade deadline week. Max got his TSN hat on and another hat on if you're watching on YouTube, which you should be. So fired up to have everyone here. Awesome show. One of the best we've done, in my opinion. So I'm very, very happy to be here with you boys today.
And then my other co-host up in Milwaukee, Mac Vogel. What's going on, my friend?
Not a whole lot of anything besides, trades, rumors, basically everything actually. So one of my most favorite weeks of the year, you might say.
Yes.
But we love to hate it too, especially last year and this year with the situation my beloved Capitals are in and all that fun stuff. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So
It's sort of like a little appetizer for March Madness. There's a lot going on. It's on a Friday. It starts in the morning. It's during the day. You're glued to your phone.
Yep.
Everyone's mad at you because you're not paying attention to anything else. But
yeah.
how can you not love the NHL trade deadline?
It's so juicy. I think whichever one of you tweeted it from the EB Twitter earlier about how it's like Vanderpump Rules, nailed it. It's literally like
He said, she said.
even more dramatic, I think, I would argue, than Vanderpump Rules, but
Plus, with more attractive people, too.
Oh, man. Shots fired early. All righty. Well, like I mentioned, we have a very, very jam-packed episode here, and we are recording this on Tuesday, March 5th. So obviously when this drops, there will be 10,000 trades that happen, and everything we say might be outdated, but nonetheless, we're going to run it. Two big interviews on tap. We had on Singsy and Elio. Huge thanks to both those guys for joining us. We just wrapped up the interviews. So we're absolutely buzzing at the moment. Got the warm up out of the way. So we got our interview with Singsy first. We'll go through the news, some rumors, then we'll hit the interview later in the episode with Mr. Ice to talk all things gambling NHL, and we'll get you all out of here. So without further ado, we're going to chat about the New Jersey Devils, Lindy Ruff, and a little bit of Stanley Cup predictions with Singsy right now. Alrighty, well, it is now my pleasure to welcome on for the first time to the Empty Betters podcast, Mr. Singsy from the Chicklets Game Notes chat. If you guys know, you know, and if not, you're going to find out real quick. Singsy, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here with you guys. Huge fan. Love what you do. I love the kind of combination of betting and teams and everything you're doing. And what a crazy time of year we're in right now.
Absolutely. So for those who maybe don't know who you are, do you kind of want to explain your niche that you've kind of crafted out here for yourself quite well, I'd say?
Yeah, for sure. Big Devils fan. Grew up with the Devils. I'm from New Jersey. So I've been through, thick and thin with the teams, a lot more thick some years, but pretty thin right now this season. And big fan of Spit and Chicklets. And I kind of got hooked up a little bit with Merle's and Army when they were creating game notes, and they created this kind of organic thing out of the ether where it was originally going to just be like a playoff daily betting show for like 30 minutes. You get on there, talk about your bets, and get out. And the fan base was so rabid, and there's such a thirst for great hockey content like what you guys provide, that it became a show. And now it's like a weekly show. We've got this great chat community. See some of you guys in there, and we kind of talk and we support the guys, and it's like this all-inclusive. If you saw the TNT broadcast when they were on True TV, I think they took a lot of the things from game notes in there, right? They were live tweeting. They were very interactive. So, so it's just great to be a part of the community here. And I've met so many amazing people, and hockey people we're the best, right? Hockey people are the best.
So before we hop into the Devils chatter, I have to ask you, how cool was it to hear Biz and Wit and RA on True TV mention your name on the live chat where they put it on television. You sent them a message and they were like, "Oh, it's Singsy." For those who don't know, and then they start talking about you.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was really I was shocked more than anything, but it was great that it could help augment the show a little bit, bring some fan content in, and then I thought Biz was hilarious with his response. The whole thing was great, and I hope they do it again. And there was other people like Sports Beard and some other folks from the Game Notes chat that they put their tweets up there as well, and yeah, it was super fun, and I like the story Grinnell told about how he did it, and just to have that level of control over what was really a national broadcast was pretty special.
Absolutely.
You talked about growing up a Devils fan. Is there one Devils player that was always your favorite growing up? Obviously there were some pretty good teams there throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. I've got family in Jersey, so I remember just getting it from them left and right every other year. They were winning a damn cup. So who was your guy?
Yeah, I had two. I loved Kenny Danico. Dano's my guy. I've got several Dano jerseys. I love that grit, that determination, the willingness to fight for your teammates, whenever, being like a cool enforcer. You see some of these guys, and they're kind of dicks. They're just out there looking for fight. Dano never looked for a fight, but sure finished a lot. So a lot of respect for him. And then Patrick Elias. How could you not like that guy? How the hell he's not in the Hall of Fame is beyond me. Leader on the ice, leader off the ice, mucked, 200-foot player, scored big goals, great defender, PP, PK. I mean, holy shit. The guy did everything, and he's got the numbers for it. So I'm hoping that gets rectified this year.
Absolutely. That guy for sure deserves the call to the Hall.
Yeah, totally.
So obviously most of the people listening are going to want to hear about the latest Devils news that broke, I guess, 2 days ago. As you all are listening to this, we're recording this on Tuesday. It'll air on Wednesday. Lindy Ruff is out as the Devils head coach. Travis Green, as you mentioned before we started recording, goes in as the interim head coach. Why don't you give us a little bit of a state of the union, if you will, on the New Jersey Devils and what your thoughts are?
Yeah, it's a big question. The state of the union is bad. It's poor. State of the union is not good. Everything that went right last year has gone wrong this year. Injuries to major stars, like long-term injuries like to Dougie, and then shorter-term injuries to Jack, to Nico. So just a lot of injuries this year, a lot of lineup shuffles, a lot of young guys on defense. They let Severson go. He had all his detractors, but he was kind of a solid guy, although he got a great deal, so good for him. And then everything started building upon itself, right? Injuries go out, and then the goaltending gets really bad. And then you don't have a backup goaltending. It wasn't addressed by Fitz. And then, the lineups that Lindy was putting out were baffling. You got Alexander Holtz on the fourth line. I mean, he's not a fourth line plug. He's a sniper. You got to deal with the defensive lapses because you're going to get hopefully 30 goals, right? I mean, they ran Sharon Govich out of town for the same thing, although he was a good PK guy. But I don't know, something that the Devils are doing to these young players that's not working. You see Dawson Mercer came in, had an incredible couple seasons. Why has he regressed this year? Again, there's something going on. It doesn't feel good. Get to Lindy. A lot of people didn't want Lindy rehired. I actually was okay with it. I thought he had turned a corner. I mean, you look at his record, and it's certainly a long record of some success, but he's never won a cup. He hasn't consistently taken his teams deep, and he's had a couple of opportunities to do that. Look, I'm not blaming Lindy for this. He was okay, but really, he was part and parcel of the problem. He was putting lines out there. It didn't make sense. Very stubborn, and here we are. So he's gone. The team is somewhat in shambles. The lines are all still a mess. Now you're sitting guys are on the block. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? So all that, we were the feel-good story of last year. Like the Devils were the best story in the NHL, in my opinion. And this year we might be the worst, right? I mean, you expected the Blackhawks to be terrible. You expected, Arizona to kind of be up and down. But they actually kind of remind me of the Devils 2 years ago. But here we are now. We went out, we made some free agent acquisitions that kind of haven't panned out. I like Timo. He's a good dude. Man, that production is not there. He is not a 200-foot player. Say what you want about Holtz. Man, Timo chooses when he's going to play defense, and it's not very often. And then Toffoli, look, I love the guy. He's a good scorer, but his game has some pretty big holes in it, and he's not a speed guy on a speed team. So it's just like what Fitz did in the offseason. I think he kind of monkeyed with it a little bit too much. And I'd rather have Sharon Govich than Toffoli. I really would. In terms of Timo, Zetterlund, not a substitute for what Timo should be able to bring. But in hindsight, I'm like, man, I kind of like Zetterlund's game. I like that energy.
Yeah.
So it's a mess. And then not the goaltending and the goaltending and the goaltending. I mean,
there it is.
That's everything. You have a good goaltender, half those problems go away, or they're masked, or
well, you guys had a pretty good one for a pretty long time. So no, I'm just messing with you. But
yeah, no, dude, it's like we're paying the price for having Marty being so freaking good for 20 years. The guy was a stallion. He played like 70 games a year, giving up 2 goals a game, and my God, the playoffs, he was just an iron horse. And God, now we've suffered ever since. And it's been year after year of no goaltending at all.
And I think the goaltending by committee this year, it was a necessary evil. It just didn't go well. And when you've got young guys in that lineup, I don't think it inspires any confidence for their game when they're playing in front of net minding like that. Not totally blaming it on the goaltenders, but I think that's a contributing factor.
It's a great point, Nick. Kind of the way I'm looking at it, if we would have had Vanacek as a 1B, 25 starts a year kind of guy with somebody way more solid, in the front, I think we would have been okay. But, having him as your 1A and expecting him to carry you anywhere, that's not the player he is. He's an athletic guy who's terrible positioning, but he's athletic enough to make these crazy saves. And you can stomach that when it's your 1B, but not when it's your alpha and you're trying to beat, Florida or Carolina or, the Bruins. It's just not going to work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Don't we know it as a couple of Caps fans on here too. So let me take what you're saying here and kind of segue us here a little bit. Where do you want to see them go this week? Trade deadline wise, do you want to see Toffoli moved? The goaltending thing, I've heard a lot of Devils fans go back and forth on like, this year, who cares? Let's use the offseason to try to get Markstrom or try to get, somebody big like that. Where are you at in terms of trade deadline? What are you hoping to see?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Had things kind of changed a few weeks ago and there would have been more time, because we were still like a 25-30% playoff team. But man, Fitz, I think he rolled the dice on Lindy and the guys, and it was snake eyes. So if there's 1 or 2 small moves that could net us a pick or 2, great. I don't think that this season is salvageable at this point. So, let's experiment. Let's have some fun. Let's let the guys relax a little bit. But yeah, I'm almost like, don't even make any moves. If you could, look, I don't want to ship the guy off in case his wife, who's a cat, is listening to Toffoli, because she's great. But if you can get something for Toffoli, yeah, I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat. If you can get like a late first or even a second for the guy, But yeah, otherwise kind of stand pat, I think.
What's your prediction on what's going to happen in terms of coaching? I mean, I think you posted the screenshot, which was pretty funny, by the way, of Travis Green's record in Vancouver for those 5 seasons. And I looked at it, I was like, oof. Yeah. So you think he stays? You think that there's going to be a carousel this offseason? What do you think?
Yeah, he's not going to be the coach going forward. I don't think there's any way. Obviously Brunette was the guy, right? We should have kept him. Couldn't do it. So we brought Green in. Again, good dude. He was supposed to run the power play. Our power play has been a disaster. He should have been the voice in Lindy's ear. He didn't. You look at the track record, the best predictor of future performance is past performance. And look, he had 1 good season early in his coaching tenure. Then it fell off. He's gone. Now you look at Tocchet. That lineup's not that different. Boy, that's a good-looking team right there. So I think you got to go out. I don't want Woodcraft. I don't want any of these kind of recent retreads. Who's the next gem out there that's going to be a great coach? A lot of people are talking like Craig Berube and that. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a hot commodity, maybe top job, in the NHL for a lot of guys looking for a job. I like what's his name from the Kings, McClellan. He'd be in the mix for me. I kind of like his style.
Yeah.
How about
What do you guys think?
How about Mike Sullivan once the Penguins can him finally?
There it is.
Okay.
There it is. We went there.
Army, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but dude, I would love Sullivan. Oh man, his after a long time as a coach of any organization or a leader of any organization, that message wears thin. People get tired of hearing it. You need change. So I think he's great, but he's kind of at the end of the rope, and his team is too. It's an older team. Look, they made some signings of the heart to try to keep those guys together for one last push. Ain't happening. Hockey's a young man's game, right? You're 23 to 30 is your prime years. So they let that linger, and then they brought in an older guy, for a ton of money. Sullivan's out. He's my number one choice.
Yeah, I had this exact conversation about 3 hours ago with a very good friend of mine who's a diehard Rangers fan. I told him we were having you on, and he was like, "Oh shit, like that's cool." But he's saying the Devils would pounce all over Mike Sullivan if he's available.
$1,000,000%.
I don't know if this would happen. I doubt it would happen, but I know there's been some people tweeting out there that maybe it could, so it must make it somewhat true, right? If it's on the internet, but maybe Rod Brindamore if the Canes flop again. I've heard that.
I just saw that today for the first time. Maybe we're looking at the same. I forget who put that out there in the ether, but yeah, it got me thinking. Rob the Bod. He wouldn't be my first choice, but that is definitely intriguing. That guy has made more out of less than most coaches in recent history. So he's doing something right down there. I credit like the hardcore, the way they play, but they follow his system. Now, I don't think his system works with this current roster as it's composed. Could it be tweaked and adjusted? Could Jack Hughes thrive in that kind of a system? I don't know. It's worth thinking about, though, for sure.
Yeah, I do want to ask you this because we ask all of our guests this question. We just wrapped it up with Mr. Ice a little bit ago, so I won't tell you his answer yet. But Cup final prediction based on where we're at right now. I know there's going to be a billion trades that happen right after you say this, so I'm fully aware of that. But as of right now, what do you think?
I think it's Florida over Edmonton in 6. Hopefully, we get a game 7. But I am on the Cats are winning the Stanley Cup this year. And I think we're going to get some great games. It's going to be wild. I cannot wait for the playoffs, even with the Devils out. But Cats. I put it out there a month ago. They're the best team in the NHL. There's no stopping them.
It's exactly what Mr. Ice just told us.
Yeah,
all right.
I was gonna say we won't say it because your interview will probably be before his in the episode. But spoiler alert, that's how it goes.
Well, I love Elio. He's got that guy is just salt of the earth, great dude. So I'm glad he said that. That gives me some hope that maybe I'll win a bet.
I think it's just hard not to pick against the Panthers right now. I mean, they're just on a different planet than everyone else. And I'm firmly a believer of iron sharpening iron. They play in the East. They play in the Atlantic. That is an absolute gauntlet right now. Yeah. I think they're better prepared than a lot of teams coming out of the West are going to be.
Oh, dude, great point. Perfect. And you look at them, I kind of look at hockey on a couple of different axes. Goaltending is kind of your bedrock. They got it. Defense, they got it. Special teams, they got it. And then, with Reinhart, and then they've got, I'm actually not that excited about offense when I'm evaluating teams for deep playoff runs. You need a couple of guys that can score. You don't actually have to have that one Connor McDavid or Jack Hughes or whatever. It's a nice to have. But when I look at the roster they have and the guys that can score 20, 30 goals, they're so deep, and I love their special teams. That's really the difference maker, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Actually, I'm not pretty sure of this, but it's got to be close. I don't have the stat in front of me. I think Reinhart has almost the same amount of power play goals as the Penguins team this year.
Yeah, didn't someone say, was it Biz, that he's got more power play goals than 4 teams or something like that? It was some ridiculous stat. But what that guy's doing
believe
is insane. Yeah, just write your own check. I think he's going to try to stay in Florida. But man, what a year he's having. It's just incredible. Every power play, he parks his ass in front of the net. You got Kachuk out there mixing it up, and somehow he gets it for the one-timer. From the same slot position, he's in the right front of the net. Our team's not defending that. I can see him standing there 3 seconds before he gets the puck to score. It's turn around. He's right there. Just bump him out of the way. It never happens.
And then Barkov, UFO saucer pass, Prime direct shipping on a dot right on his tape. It's unreal.
Dude, was that like the best pass you've ever seen?
That
thing
is
was
the
just,
best pass I've ever seen.
like, it's jaw dropping how good that thing was. Yeah,
And it was,
that team is stacked.
the best part was not him juggling it or doing it while he's falling down. That pass is like razor flat.
Right. Total flat, toss right to the stick, and it was a miraculous pass. It was amazing.
I want to hear your rationale on Edmonton. We got Elio's perspective on it. I know Edmonton's a hot pick. Everyone, is going to say McDavid, he's due. It's time. We're in year 8 or 9, whatever it is at this point. Like, what's going on? Do you really believe it?
I want to believe it. I do think that there's an argument to be made for the Canucks. I think whatever the hell's happening in Vegas, I think that this is not their year. And by the way, as someone without a spleen, I had my spleen ruptured and removed. That guy is legit hurt, and he's out. So why do I believe in Edmonton? I think that is a combination of obviously the goal scoring and what they have, but I like their secondary guys a lot. I think their goaltending is kind of rounded into form. And their defense is okay. The West is a little bit of a different animal than the East, to your point about steel sharpening steel. It is the Wild West. There's not the depth out there. Talk about the Avs, talk about the Canucks, talk about the Oilers. Any of those 3 teams, I think, could make the finals. But I'm kind of leaning toward Edmonton. And here is where I will say, because of the McDavid and Draisaitl factor, I mean, you're just not going to keep those guys down. Again, there's no overtime in the playoffs either. Does that hurt Edmonton with 3-on-3? Maybe that favors like the Canucks because of how much stronger their defense is. But it certainly feels like Edmonton's year. To lose for the Cats, by the way.
You same as Mr. Ice.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, fellas, do you have any further questions for Singsy over here?
Who's your front runner for the MVP? I feel like we've got like a 4-headed race going right now. You've got Kucherov with more points than I have dollars in my bank account. You've got McDavid with, just another one of his seasons. And then Matthews might get 75.
A lot of people are talking about Cooch, and, I think he's an incredible player. For whatever reason, I do think that all-star game bullshit that he pulled is going to cost him a couple of votes. I think because of where he plays and what he's doing, and Matthews has a really good chance to get it this year, but it's going to depend on where Toronto ultimately winds up. And then McDavid's the easy choice, right? I don't know. If I had to vote myself, God, this is a tough one, man. I'd probably just pinch my nose and vote for Cooch. But it just feels like Matthews is going to win it this year. He won't have the points, but he's going to have the goals. He's in Toronto. He's in the prime of his career. But he needs like a stretch here at the end, because he had that great stretch. He's fallen off a little bit. I mean, He's fallen off. He's still like amazing, right? But if he goes on a little bit of a run here these last 20 games and, pops another 25 goals or something crazy, a couple of hatties in there, and they win a bunch, he's going to win it.
And I didn't even mention McKinnon. Like, it's just
my
crazy how
pick.
loaded it is.
Well, it's the other one. I love the Nate Dogg. He hasn't won a Hart yet. I think he should have won it the other year. Who won that year? It was when Hall won, right?
That was Taylor Hall's year, yeah.
So yeah, there could be some divided. It's his turn vote. That is a real thing in the NHL.
For sure.
Selkie every year. But I'm voting for Matthews. That's my call.
I'm with you. I think that's a strong assessment on all fronts there.
It's a goal scoring league. Let's be real.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
It sells too. I mean, I think Max said this a couple episodes ago. He's the most marketable guy that we have in this game. So any chance he can get in the spotlight is a win for the league.
Look what they built the All-Star game around him and McDavid, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, great point. I mean, they need these guys to keep the league rolling and get these new markets in. And yeah, everyone likes McDavid's game, but got to admit, he's not the greatest spokesperson. Matthews he's just a better guy to be the face of the league.
Send Bieber to the award ceremony when Matthews accepts the MVP, and we'll get another fiasco on Twitter, I'm sure. But
yeah, wears his big pink onesie,
right?
Whatever the hell he was wearing.
That was crazy, yeah. But Singsy, we appreciate your time. Your Devils are in their first intermission. They got on the board, so that's good. There's maybe a comeback coming here.
I like it. Was it Holtz? I bet Alexander Holtz plus 500.
I think it was Jack Hughes. I think.
That's cool. I love it.
It was Jack Hughes, but you're a great follow on Twitter for anybody who's not following Singsy. Make sure you do so. And we appreciate you coming on the show. It's been fun. We'd love to have you back on come playoff time.
I was gonna say, got a feeling this won't be the last time you're on here. So, yep.
Great. Appreciate it, boys. I'm a big fan. And I'll see you guys on Twitter on the pod.
Yeah, thanks. Huge thanks to Singsy for joining us. That was a great conversation. It definitely won't be the last time that we have him on the show. Definitely excited to see what he can bring to the table during playoffs.
Yeah, I sense a recurring guest there, no doubt. So,
and it is just a reminder that interview with Singsy was brought to you by Kane Footwear, who I think Nick has a word from.
That's right, boys. You know, Lindy Ruff, no longer the coach of those New Jersey Devils, walked off, saw him wearing his Kane Footwears. He's recovering fine. If you want to be like us and recover in the best way possible, in a way that's good for you, good for your body, and good for the environment, head to the link in our bio today to get your pair of Kane Revives. New colorways just dropped. They look fantastic. Go ahead and support them. Definitely use that link in our bio so we get some as well.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to dive into the news here real quick. Couple trades to go over, a game to recap, and then we'll get into the discussion portion. So first off, the Dallas Stars have acquired Chris Tanev from the Calgary Flames in a 3-team trade. Tanev was acquired by the Stars from the Flames last Wednesday in a 3-team trade involving the New Jersey Devils. Calgary gets Artem Grushnikov and the Stars' second-round pick in 2024 to conditional third in 26. Boys, thoughts on what this does for the Dallas Stars?
I love this move for the Dallas Stars. I did say on this show, in the holy church of predictions that is Empty Betters, that the Dallas Stars were going to make the Stanley Cup final this year, and I'm still sticking with that. I think this move absolutely moves them in the right direction to do so. And I always love when the first domino falls for trade deadline, because it happened like a week before the actual deadline, and then teams go, oh shit, it's game time. I love the fact that the Stars took the initiative, got the deal they wanted done, and we're happy with it.
Yep. I love, to me, I love seeing teams that are already pretty solid, pretty stacked make, maybe this isn't a minor move, but I think big picture wise, it is kind of a minor move of not like giving up too much, not getting some like groundbreaking superstar, but just little moves that really make your team better and more equipped for a deep run. I always am the guy that relates shit to Capitals moves, so I can make sense of it in my head, but feels like the Kempney move, right? Yes. The year that we go and finally win our cup. It's always those little moves that actually like move the needle further than going out and getting like a big crazy guy, it seems like. So I like that move a lot for them.
It's also similar, I think, you talk about 2018 in the Caps. I think people forget they also brought in Jacob Yerabek that year too, who ended up playing, I would say, 3 or 4 games throughout that playoff run. And, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs, having a 7th, 8th B that can jump in and without missing a beat like that or fit into your system right away, which I think Tanev can, is it's priceless.
Yeah, they definitely get some fuck you hockey on the back end, which every team needs. Shot blocker, going to play top 4 minutes probably. Yeah. Maybe third pair, not look at the lineup at the moment, but huge.
Maybe.
Huge for the Stars, in my opinion. I think they're going to need that down the stretch. All righty, moving on to Maple Leafs. They acquire Lyubushkin from the Ducks in a 3-team trade. Anaheim received Toronto's 3rd-round pick in 25, and then Carolina received Toronto's 6th-round pick in 24. So, boys, what do you think of this move for the Leafs?
So, Lyubushkin's second kick at the can here in Toronto, correct?
Yes.
I think it'll be interesting. I like the move for Toronto. 29 is still very young for a defenseman in the NHL. I think with, we obviously talk about the league getting younger. Guys are coming in younger, but I think you do see guys, especially defensemen, making a career out of staying, until they're 35, 6, 7, 8, whatever you want to call it. So I like this move for them. I don't think they necessarily gave up too much to get it. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and he also had kind of an injury scare right after he got there. I think there was like a scary hit, but pretty sure he did play against the Bees last night. So hopefully everything's
think
okay
you're right.
there.
The
So,
Statue of Liberty absolutely fucking roiled him. If you know him,
Yeah.
Mr. Matt Rempe himself, who we'll talk about that hit shortly. But that was definitely one that made its way around the internet.
Yeah, which that would have been the last thing the Leafs need is to trade for a defenseman and have him get hurt too. So that's a stroke of luck if he is okay.
One of the things I failed to mention, Toronto also received Carolina prospect Karel Slepets. So just want to add that in there as well. Probably the biggest news of the trade deadline season thus far, and maybe it'll be the biggest news the entire way, but Elias Pettersson is staying put in Vancouver. GM Patrick Alvin announced last week that the club agreed to terms with forward Pettersson on an 8-year contract with an annual value of $11.6 million. That is a total of $92.8 million, making him the 5th highest contract in the NHL. Thoughts?
I mean, we talked about the Pettersson rumors in the last couple episodes, and I said it was smoke and mirrors then, and I was kind of under that mindset up until they signed him or extended him. I feel like there's one player every year. Like we had to go through it like 10 times with Steven Stamkos, and they tried to do it with Steven Stamkos again this year, but this is a home run for the Canucks. You know, the whole I don't know if I want to be there long-term thing, I think was you're not going to offer me enough to keep me here long-term. I think that's been rectified, and that guy is a joy to watch play. I'm happy he's staying in the Couve.
Yeah, well said all around. I think I would echo everything he said. I kind of was shocked by how many people on Twitter were like, "Wow, oh my God, he saw were like apparently really surprised that he ended up signing after all that." And I was like, "No, I'm not surprised at all. Kind of figured this would eventually get done. Just too weird of a time of year for him to all of a sudden get traded or not sign or whatever." So, but yeah, like you said, fun guy to watch. I think he's going to be an absolute stud in the league for years to come. I don't see that deal getting sour or anything like that. So
yeah, I was a little surprised at the term. I know last episode maybe we were saying if he doesn't want to be there long term, they do some type of enormous bridge deal where the AAV is jacked through the roof. But honestly, man, you know, a guy who was drafted there, I believe in 2017, you want to keep the guys that you draft that high. I think he was like their 5th overall pick that year, if memory's right. So he deserves to stay. It's a fun time to be a Vancouver fan. That's all I'm going to say. And we'll talk about that a little bit with the rumor segment that will inevitably happen later in the episode. But good on the Canucks. Moving on to another Western team that got an extension done. Tommy Novak in Nashville gets a 3x3.5. Probably one of the names that was most frequently mentioned in potentially getting traded. I know the Rangers were in on that one, but staying put in Nashville. Nashville's hot. I think they've won 8 in a row. Thoughts?
Fantastic move by Barry Trotz all around. Love this deal.
yeah, I mean I think I heard Trotz talking about it, and he was like, "I gotta find a way to sign Tommy Novak because players like that just are hard to find, and that's a perfect deal for him. 3x3, that's like could not be more ideal."
Absolutely. And good on Nash. I like them making a push, keeping some of their assets.
They're looking hot right now. I mean,
yeah, 8 in a row.
Knock on wood, shit can change. We've seen it. Shit can change in the league in 2 days or less. But as of right this very second, they look good.
Absolutely. All right. So this next bullet point was going to save it for State of the Union, but we'll address it now because I'm sure people want to hear what you guys have to say. Mr. Anthony Mantha is now a member.
Oh, fuck you.
Of the Vegas Golden Knights.
At least you didn't buy their Stanley Cup championship hat, which looked like utter dog shit.
That is a clean hat. I'll give it to you.
It was also a free hat. I wouldn't have gone out.
Oh, those are the best kind.
Wouldn't have bought.
Sorry, second best kind. Go buy this. You know where it is.
Yeah, best
True.
kind. Check the merch shop
Trucker
and
hat.
absolutely. Second best if you're not watching on YouTube, and you should be. Just flipped on the Vegas Golden Knight lid. But boys, thoughts on the Mantha deal?
Yeah, here's what I'll say. Obviously, it's always tough every year losing guys. This is a guy I really, along with other Caps fans, warmed up to this year after, all the hate we probably gave this guy ever since he got here. But he had, there's no sugarcoating. He was one of the best players on the team this year. Really came into his own, seemed to finally get comfortable. So that was great to see. it is the right move. He expires at the end of the year. Second rounder and a fourth rounder, I'll take it. You want it. You wish you could get somebody to maybe overpay a little bit, get a little higher or something, but I can't say I'm shocked or that upset at the return. Here's one thing I will say about why I do like the move. Whether or not the Caps are trying to make a final push and sneak into the playoffs to get some of their young guys experience or not, making this move is the right call because it opens up a roster spot for somebody like Miroshnichenko or somebody, obviously McMichael has already been playing a bunch. But there's just that much more ice time now for some of our young guys that we're trying to get through the pipeline anyway. So, maybe they call up Miro or they call up Frank or something like that. And I think either way, next year, you have the opportunity to let one of those guys really shine at rookie camp, knowing that there's an open spot for him. Or, if you really like Mantha enough and he wants to, and he felt like he was comfortable here and wants to come back, maybe you re-sign him in the offseason for cheap. So I like it because you get something for him. And yeah, I mean, good luck to him. Good player.
Yeah, well said. I echo everything you said. I think that the big thing is if you're the Washington Capitals right now, you can't do nothing. You have to pick, there's a fork in the road here. You got to go left and try and push for the playoffs, or you got to go right and try and get another top 10 draft pick is basically what I think they're doing right now. That's pretty much what this move says to me is we're going to shore up some picks for this year. I love that. Love that it's a second and a fourth. But you couldn't just sit there or try and flip Mantha for, an asset that's going to help you make the postseason at this point, because I think that's a little bit unrealistic right now.
Yeah, and I think look at what the Caps did last year by they were at that fork in the road similarly, and they almost don't go down either one of them. It's almost like you make the moves that make sense that you kind of have to make, like that you'd be stupid not to make. Guys that you're going to get nothing for at the end of the year, essentially. Like you move guys like that, and you see where you end up. That's basically where it is. So
I think it's also just a consequence of the circumstances that the team has had to face this year. I mean, obviously, there's no Nicholas Backstrom. Evgeny Kuznetsov is with the Hershey Bears right now. It's just a weird year for this team. And I think, if you've got a healthy Backstrom and a healthy Kuznetsov who are contributing in the lineup, maybe this trade is a little bit easier for some people to swallow. But I think that's where you're seeing a lot of the flack from Caps fans on the internet.
Well, from one big man to another, we touched on him earlier, but Matt Rempe, I always want to say Rempe, but I know people say Rempe. I know it's pronounced Rempe, but when I see it, anyways, I digress. Rangers-Leafs game on Saturday night, one hell of a matchup between him and Ryan Reeves. They square off. Obviously, that comes as a result of Rempe's hit on Lyubushkin. He knocked him out of the game. I don't know if you guys saw the hit. He basically railroaded him into the glass. I was shocked the glass didn't actually break. That thing bent so much. And then he holds his own with Reeves. I'd say, it was a pretty even fight. Maybe you give Reeves the edge, but Rempe kind of learning how to play a little defense here. Are you guys like annoyed at how much Rempe is fighting? I know online it's starting to get like, oh, here we go. It's fight night, whatever. Whereas, I mean, I'm on the complete opposite side of that personally, but what do you guys think?
I'm also on the complete opposite side. I don't mind seeing it in the NHL. It's absolutely part of this game. Fighting's up this year, which I love. And most importantly, good fighting is up. I feel like in the last 5 years, there was like so much of this just half-assed mailing it in kind of stuff going on in the league. And I mean, this guy has come through and just taken on 3 or 4 of the biggest like A-list heavyweights that are still left in the NHL and beaten 3 or 4 of them too. So it's just really, really impressive. I think the hate he's getting online is probably down to the fact that he is a Rangers player.
That's maybe
could be some of it. I think there's also just a lot of people that don't really get it and don't want to see fighting, and that's just that's not right. That's just incorrect, unfortunately. So yeah, hockey and fighting go hand in hand. Fighting belongs in the game. If you disagree, probably not the podcast for you. But the only argument the only like critique I I could hear a little bit about this fight in particular between Reeves and Rempe is the timing. I think even the announcers said it when it was going on. It was a little bit of a weird time to do that. It was like late in the third period of like a close game. Usually you want to see them kind of get that out of the way earlier. I could already hear Laviolette like probably cursing under his breath, like, Jesus Christ, you're going to do this right now or whatever. Yeah. But you know, you could also make the counter argument that Reeves and Rempe are both not guys that, you know, you're relying on to score a big goal in the last 5 minutes of the third period anyway. So what's the difference? So
Ryan Reeves doesn't score big goals unless he cross checks John Carlson in the back anyways. But
Ryan Reeves doesn't get minutes unless he doesn't get a uniform unless he, you know, has to fight somebody. So that's a totally different topic, but yes.
Anyways, I thought it was interesting. Like Revo went after him in the first period. And you could see him saying, like, do you want it? Do you want it? And Rempe was just kind of brushing him off, didn't want anything to do with it. And I respect his, you know, decision to not do it right then in the first period. And Revo went up to him again in the third period, and I think initiated both times, if I remember correctly. So I respect him for answering the bell. I absolutely think he got the better of him.
I don't want to say like he got the better of him. It was a close fight. He definitely held his own. It was a respectable fight. I don't know if you guys heard, but Reeves in the post-game comments, I think he said the quote was like, yeah, Rempe's going to be a menace in this league for years to come. And if that's coming from Revo, then you know that's pretty good company to be in. But it worked out well. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember back to Saturday. I know sometimes I can't remember yesterday, but the Rangers were down 3-2 at the time of that fight. Trocheck ties it up. They force overtime, but obviously Leafs end up getting the win in the end, but the Rangers get a point. Maybe it's because of that fight being so late in the game. Who knows? I agree. Weird time, like Max said, to have a fight, but nonetheless, an excellent hockey game. One of the best of the year, I'd say. So
that was a good one.
Yeah, maybe that's a potential second round matchup, third round matchup. God. We'll see. Who knows? But anyways, we're going to move on to the discussion portion of the episode. Going to be heavily focused on the trade deadline, mostly. First off, I want to ask you guys, which team are you most interested in seeing this trade deadline?
This is tough. I was thinking about this all day today. You know, a part of me was thinking the Jets, but I think with Monahan, they're good. I'm going to say the Bruins. I feel like there's something coming that we're just not seeing. Everyone's talking about Florida and the Atlantic. Everyone's talking about Kucherov. The Bruins are still just as good. You know, Florida's probably a little bit ahead of them, but I think they're absolutely good enough to make another deep playoff run here. So maybe if they bring in someone else, I don't know. I know there's talk of them maybe shipping a goalie out, but I feel like Boston's going to do something sneaky here.
Yeah, the other weird thing about Boston that I'll touch on is like there's obviously they're not sellers, they're buyers if anything, but there are a number of guys in that team that kind of make sense to move like contract wise, and talk about the goalie thing too. It's like, okay, it might make sense to move one of these guys. So I totally agree. Boston, it's going to be super interesting. I'd say that's one of the more unpredictable teams. Like I could not tell you what they're going to do, but they're going to do something. For my answer, I'm gonna go with the Canucks actually, because that's a team that, again, we've said it all year, no one expected them to be where they're at right now, but they're there. And so now it's like, all right, are we as good as we think? Do we need to go out? There's also, you run the risk of doing too much. You don't want to fuck up the chemistry of a team that's been playing that well. And you definitely don't want to go out and get somebody that's going to make a current roster player feel threatened or feel, lose some morale for like, oh shit, they just got someone to replace me or something like that. So that's a team that kind of has to be careful about like not doing too much, I think. But at the same time, I wouldn't be too content to do nothing, because you already know everybody around you is getting better. You don't want to be that team that does nothing, and then the teams that you're looking at maybe playing in the first round are stacking up. So I'll say the Canucks.
Especially with that whole Gensel rumor that kind of came over the air right before we started recording about that. Maybe they move Lindholm, or they just got in a trade, and then they bring in Gensel. You know, they've got Tocchet, they've got Rutherford, they have that Pittsburgh connection, and Rutherford's always going to be one of the most aggressive guys at the deadline. So we'll see. I like that. Is there any beef that you might have with Canucks at all?
It's not with the
Involving?
Canucks. It does involve them. I'll go on a quick story time tangent here because this has been consuming too much of my time to not talk about it. So I'm a proud DHgate user, especially now that the NHL is using Fanatics for their jerseys. I have no problem going on DHgate, waiting 2 months to receive what I ordered, and usually receiving it in good condition and quality, and paying somewhere between $30 and $40 for a nice new NHL jersey. I do this pretty frequently. So
Plus correct spelling. Can't beat that. Literally,
Yep.
Fanatics can't beat that.
No, DHgate, way more reliable, and I'm not even kidding. So I don't know, back in January, ordered one of those nice, sharp black, red, and yellow skate Canucks jerseys with the like the reverse retro one with Quinn Hughes on it. Super nice, super excited. Definitely wasn't checking like the tracking thing like every day because I was so excited, even though I knew it was going to take like 2 months. Finally, it shows up. I open it up and it's in great condition. It looks super real, looks super nice, except there's one problem. It's not what I ordered. It's the blue normal home Canucks jersey. And again, it looked great, but I was like, okay, well, this is not what I ordered. So, as one would do, I tried like chatting with these people like through the app. It's like, in China, these people like don't really even speak great English. This guy's like confused about what I'm trying to say. I sent him pictures of the jersey, pictures of my order where it clearly says black, yada, yada, yada. Long story short, I have now been in this like long chat with this guy back and forth, trying to get him to simply send me what I originally ordered. And he has made a couple of pretty crazy suggestions. First, his solution for fixing this problem was going to be to give me a $3 coupon, to which I politely declined.
What's it going to be, Mac? Deal or no deal?
Yeah, I politely slammed the no deal button. And then he said, okay, how about a $5 coupon? Again, I politely slammed the no deal button on that one. And then his most recent suggestion, this is just you can't make this shit up. He suggested that I send him a video of me taking scissors or a knife and cutting the jersey that he sent me so that he knows that I'm not getting 2 jerseys for the price of one. And he said that if I cut the jersey and sent him proof that I did that, then he would send me what I originally ordered free of charge. To which I told him, oh, so you just want this to go in a landfill? I see. So you hate planet Earth. And, we had some polite discussions after that. Anyway, long story short, if anyone wants to send me a blue and green garment of some sort that looks like a Canucks jersey that I could cut up and fake and send to him, that'd be tight. That'd be pretty cash.
So like this guy doesn't care. He's like, I don't care if I have to ship him a second one. I don't want this asshole walking around with 2 jerseys.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's why I'm like, dude, this makes no fucking sense. You guys fucked up. Like, just send me what I ordered. And also, this is a really nice jersey, and I've already worn it like 3 times to the bar and gotten hella compliments. So I'm not cutting it. Like,
right.
No. Yeah. That is a very interesting proposal. So yes, DM Mac if you do want to send him a blue and green garment in his words.
Let's chat about that. Thanks.
Yeah, good idea.
Back to reality here for a second. As fun as that conversation was. For my team, man, it's tough. There's a couple that come to mind. But if I had to pick one, it's a team who needs to win a cup. They've been in contention too long. The time is now. Carolina Hurricanes. They can't score goals. They've been they're always top 5 in betting odds at the start of the year to be a Stanley Cup winner for probably the last 5 years or however long Brenda Moore has been there. But we talked about it with Singsy. They need a purely offensive guy to come into that lineup who can give them a little jolt of offense in the playoffs. We saw what happened to them in Florida last year in the conference finals. it dried up. I look at a Gensel, I look at a Buchnevich, I look at those guys, and I think they have to go in this year. I don't see how they don't.
How would you like Max Pacioretty?
That's a good deal, Howie.
And I'll tell you what, I'll cut you a deal. All you have to do if you want Max Pacioretty is take a Hurricanes jersey and cut it up and send me a video of you cutting it up. And then I'll send you Max Pacioretty. How does that sound?
In the same box.
Yeah, in the same box, so that I know that you're not walking around there with two Max Pacioretty.
That's negotiation if I've ever heard it. I think GMBM could take a page out of your book. But Mac, I'm sorry, I said Nick and Mac. That's my brain at this point.
Nick Albe-Cubel.
Mac, I know you had great eyes on Kraken Flames game the other night, and I know you wanted to chat about it for a second.
I do. This was a crazy, crazy game. So, what's his name? Acne Medicine, Pospisil. Is that
Paspil or whatever? Yeah.
Is it?
Something.
I think it's Marty Pospisil.
That sounds right.
I don't know what to
Acne
say about this
Medicine.
guy. Nick and I were talking about this game while it was going on, and I said this guy Pospisil is running around like a madman, and Nick was like, I could have sworn Pospisil was an acne medication, which
I was like, whoa. Before we
Totally.
get to anything about the game, we're talking about this guy's funny ass name.
yeah. Anyway, he was running around making crazy hits. He had one early in the game. I'm trying to remember who he cleaned out there. Was that Everly or?
I thought the first one was on Larson, and then the
Larson.
bad one
Yes,
was on
yes.
Dunn, right?
Yes, you're right. The
Yeah.
first one was on Larson, and that one I don't even want to comment on that because I'm going to get flamed whichever side I take. It was a weird hit. It could have been dangerous, whether that was his fault or not. I don't know. I don't care. I will say if I'm on the Kraken, I'm probably still taking offense to that hit, whether it's quote unquote clean or not. So he definitely, was getting chased after making that hit. And then fast forward to the third period, and he just cleans out Vince Dunn.
From like 4 feet away, he like revved up his motor and ran over Vince Dunn.
And technically it wasn't charging because he's not moving his feet when he makes the hit, but like, oh man, he must have started full speed from like center ice.
It was bad.
And just stopped skating in time for it to technically not be charging. Either way, just a gross hit in my opinion. I don't think that hit belongs in the game. And clear, I mean, Vince Dunn looked like it
was bad.
It was real bad. Had to leave. And so what ends up happening though is that Pospisil gets tossed. He gets a 5-minute major and he gets the game misconduct. But what ends up happening is Coleman has to pay the price because, you're the Flames. You got somebody like this running around who can't find the line of where to hit. And all of a sudden now your veterans are going to have to answer for it. And Coleman didn't want to fight, but
but he's got to do it.
No, exactly. So it turned into a total circus. The Kraken ended up winning the game. It was a crucial game for both of them. I would argue even more so for the Flames because, they're closer here
For sure.
to an actual playoff spot. So you got to wonder, or at least I do, if the veterans in the locker room don't have a chat with Pospisil after that, because you cannot, in a crucial game like that, you cannot be running around like just making dumbass hits like that are costing. I mean, he basically cost the team the game because they're down 2 goals with like 5-ish minutes left, and then he gets a 5-minute major. So it's just power play for like the rest of the game. It's
Game's over.
Like, yeah, and it was. So,
and I know that was it Tanev that went after Coleman?
Yep. Yeah, he had enough. He was like, and you can see, I couldn't read the lips, but they're barking at each other. And I gotta think Tanev is yelling at Coleman like go get your fucking guy. Like, tell him to like stop fucking running around here like an idiot. So
I think this, for me, I switched over the game towards the end. I watched the recap and the condensed game this morning. Is as soon as that first hit against Larson happens, the refs need to go, okay, we need to get this thing under control now. Because if we don't put an end to this shit, it's only going to get worse. And that's just what the third period was.
Yep. No, it's a good point. I don't know. Do you think there'll be anything else for Pospisil
I do. I think he's got a hearing today, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
They
Yesterday.
announced DOPS announced today, Tuesday. So when you're listening to this Wednesday, the hearing's going to be on Wednesday.
Okay.
And I think it's also worth noting Hackstall was asked about some of the hits after the game. His exact comments were, I thought both hits were about as bad as it gets. And he was saying that Pospisil probably needs to answer the bell for a couple.
Yeah.
100%.
I would definitely be glued to the TV if these two
And
teams
that's
play
the
each
part
other
that
soon.
sucks. Like that I was touching on is like Pospisil gets tossed from the game, so he doesn't even have to fucking like pay the price. And instead, you got a guy like Blake Coleman just getting like punched in the face for no reason.
Right.
Because somebody has to. That's just how it works. Somebody's gonna have to answer it so that they're pissed off enough to go talk to their guy and be like, "Hey, buddy, I don't really want to get punched in the fucking face because you're out here and you can't fucking find the line." So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Little East playoff race chatter. Going to move on to that. Tampa, Islanders, Devils, all fighting for that last spot. A little bit is shaken out here since we maybe thought this was a closer race than it actually is. Islanders are probably the only team who can snag that spot from Tampa, that last spot. The Devils, I mean, if they do get in, it would maybe be because Philly collapses and they get hot, but I really don't see that happening, especially with what we just talked about with Singsy. So, boys, I want to ask you this. Is there a chance that the Islanders can overtake the Bolts for that last wild card spot?
No.
Listen, it's so weird because I don't think first of all, I actually don't think that the Islanders would be the team to do it. Do I think there's a chance Tampa Bay falls out of that spot? I actually do. But I think that maybe the Devils, hate to say it, maybe the Caps. Again, this is like without knowing what anyone's really doing at the trade deadline. So it's even harder to predict. But I'll tell you, never mind what team's going to sneak in. Let me tell you why I think the Lightning maybe don't make it is the Sergachev thing has really affected that team, in my opinion. Their D is not the same without him. Vasilevsky, I think I've said it on the pod before, has a save percentage that starts with the number 8 for the first time in maybe ever. They're just, I feel like that's like a team. I think Elliot Friedman said it perfectly on 32 Thoughts. That's a team that to me is looking at themselves right now and is like, maybe it's not our year. Like it doesn't feel like even if they get in that they have any hope of like doing anything. But it's also not a team who really needs to get in to get like all their young guys a bunch of experience. You know what I mean? Like they're just it feels like a team that's a waste of a playoff spot. Like I hate to say that. I'm probably gonna get flamed for that because I know the Bolts are the Bolts and they'll probably make me eat shit and make the playoffs and go to the conference final now. But I don't know. That team, this has been a disastrous year for them in multiple facets. And they just so happen to still be in the last playoff spot. But I seriously think they could use a break. Like if anything, they could probably just use a year to not be in the playoffs and recoup. I mean, they did only go one round last year, so who knows? But that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I think they're lacking a lot of depth this year offensively too. I mean, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, and this is a crazy stat if you haven't heard it. So Kucherov is obviously running off with the scoring title. McKinnon close there with him, but he's got 40 more points than the next closest guy on the Lightning. That is, I mean, you got Braden Point, you got Stamkos, some of these guys. Obviously, if Sergachev was healthy, he's got good offensive prowess. But like, how is that possible?
And they've got guys too that like beginning of the year, you were like, oh, watch out, like Connor Sherry. You're like, oh, watch out, and he's done fuck all year.
Yeah, Hagel.
It's like
even as good as Hagel's been, he's not even within 40 points. It's nuts.
Right. I think it just goes to show that bottom 6 is nowhere near what it was when they were on their back-to-back run. What's his face? Palat's gone, Gord's gone. This is, it's very thin at the bottom of that barrel right now.
Which is why I feel like they are leaving the door open. If the Islanders or the Devils or the Caps or somebody wants to get hot as fuck out of nowhere, I think it's open for the taking. But
It's definitely the most like human we've seen this team look in the last
Yeah.
5 years.
But it's a two-way street. It doesn't just take Tampa being mediocre. One of those other three teams has to go on a run, and I honestly don't know if that is going to happen.
They have to want to get in the playoffs, and
No,
none of those
right.
three teams
No,
do.
they're all fighting like, I don't know, you do it. I'm scared.
Yeah, literally.
We probably shouldn't be talking about the Red Wings considering some of the YouTube comments we've gotten as
Oh
of
my
recent,
God.
but here we
Moron
go.
circus.
Dylan Larkin out for 2 weeks with a lower body injury. In those 2 weeks, they are if it's actually 2 weeks, they're going to play about 7 games. Colorado, Arizona, Vegas, Buffalo, Arizona again, Buffalo again, and then Pittsburgh.
It's fine.
How
There's
panicked
one
are
win
you?
right there.
How panicked are you if you're a Wings fan?
I'm on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I'm cool as a cucumber, 10 being I would melt ice if I was sitting on top of it in 2 seconds. I'm probably going to go like a 4. If it was any other player, I probably wouldn't really be that concerned. Maybe Sider or a goaltender. But it's Larkin. It's the heart and soul of that team. He's your captain. He is one of, if not your best players, night in and night out. So, yeah, do I think they can weather the storm? Absolutely. Do I expect maybe a little bit of drop off in points? Maybe they drop a game or two here that they wouldn't normally do if he was in the lineup.
They're definitely, as long as they can kind of just stay afloat here, like they have those 2 games in hand on Tampa.
Yeah.
So that's huge. Like what they can't do is like lose 3 in a row at any juncture here, especially like losing 3 in a row in like regulation. You're at that juncture of the year where like any of those bubble teams, you just cannot, like your worst enemy right now is simply like a 3-game losing streak, which is not that hard to do. Like that could happen to anyone, especially you play. I mean, Arizona's sneaky. You play Colorado, Arizona, Vegas. Yeah, you could lose all 3 of those games. I don't know, like totally possible.
Even Buffalo, like they're kind of playing.
Sure. I think the good thing here for them is that there's only one Atlantic Division opponent in that stretch, and it's the Sabres, and they play them twice. And the Sabres are nowhere. I mean, they've got 62 points, so it's not like
4-point games going on, which is huge. Yeah, especially to not have to play those without Larkin. So
like if it was big. Florida, Boston, Tampa, like, oh my God, I'd be freaking out.
And as we know, as we were informed from the great people of YouTube, they have a shutdown goaltender, Alex Lyon, who's probably going to win the Vezina this year and is, lights out every night. So
18-time Vezina Trophy finalist, .999 save percentage.
Yeah, and he's like the 17th number prospect, and he's so good. He's so good.
Go check the YouTube comments. All right, real quick. I know we've got an Elio interview coming up. You guys are itching for that. So real quick, Penn's Western road trip was a complete disaster. They lost the season in Calgary, 3-1 lead, couple minutes to go in the third, and they blow it 4-3. And then the lock of the century, they blow it to Edmonton. I hammered Edmonton. I tweeted Edmonton. We never win in Edmonton. We never beat Edmonton. We play Edmonton again soon. Edmonton. I just hate this team. The Gensel trade will probably be announced in the next 2 to 3 days. I'm not even going to speculate. I'll talk about it. We'll make a YouTube video about it maybe if it happens sooner than later. That's all I got. The season's over. I'm not watching. Alex Nylander gets traded to the Blue Jackets. I think he's got 5 goals in like 5 games with them. So, of course, I'm done. Keep the Caps one brief.
You're absolutely still going to watch. We know that. I just think it's hilarious that the Penguins have to play the Oilers like 3 more times because the NHL was like, oh, Crosby and McDavid gearing up for another like playoff run. Let's build a little drama, get some like primetime matchups here. Womp womp.
Thoughts on Caps overall?
Yeah, I mean, the big news here is the Kuznetsov thing. He reported to Hershey. He was practicing with them today. So shout out to Kuzi. Hopefully he is doing well, and I wish him the best in the future. I do not anticipate that future to be with the Washington Capitals. I see a lot of people who seem to think that we're going to be calling him up from the Bears like in a week, but
no, I would, if I had to guess, I'd say we'll see you next year. we'll see. We'll see what happens next year. You passed waivers. Nobody claimed you. Have fun in Hershey. Rediscover your love for the game. Find some joy in it. It was good to see him smiling out there at practice today. So
Yeah.
He's got a lot of people rooting for him. Obviously, hopefully we'll see him at training camp next year, and it'll be the start of his 30 for 30 greatest comeback of all time videotape. That would be sick. I'm fully rooting for that. But
That would be great.
Until then, yeah, I mean, there's not much else really to say that we haven't touched on. Other trade possibilities. I fully expect Joel Edmondson to get moved. I definitely think Pacioretty might get moved. Maybe Nick Jensen.
Hopefully not with Dowd.
I think we're gonna hold on to Dowd. If you put a gun to my head and made me pick, I really, really, really hope we do. But yeah, we'll see. He could definitely probably bring in a haul if we did elect to move him. So yeah, I mean, the Caps, like I said earlier, they're gonna have to go on a crazy run. Tampa or Detroit or Philly is gonna have to fall off a cliff. Is it possible? Yes. Is it unlikely? Extremely. Do I want it to happen? Yes. I've said on this show before, it'd be sick for the young guys to get some playoff experience, even if we get swept. So that's where my head's at.
Totally agree.
Alrighty. Well, we are going to move on to the gambling portion with Mr. Ice himself. We know you guys have been waiting for this one. Just a quick reminder before we do that, this interview and gambling segment with Elio is brought to you by Prop Tracker. Prop Tracker is your home for player prop research and finding outlier bets for NHL, NBA, NFL, and more. Once you find a bet you like, start tracking it to get notified on its progress, like shots, rebounds, or receptions. Go to proptrackerapp.com/emptybetters to try a free month of the Android or iOS app. The word tracker does not have the letter E in it. proptrackerapp.com/emptybetters. Get your first month free on us. Without further ado, we're going to toss it off to Mr. Ice right now. Alrighty, it is now my pleasure to welcome back to the Empty Betters podcast, Mr. Ice himself. Elio, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I think this is 3 years. I wear the sunglasses because when you're over 40, you got to cover your eyes a little bit. Although I don't tell people I'm over 40, but I am.
Absolutely. Well, you are a busy man since the last time that we spoke. I think, maybe a little over a year, maybe even 2 years ago, but you got your own show now, which is doing great. You got the big IceCon event coming up, which sounds like an absolute time and a half. So yeah. I just want to ask you, how's the 300 seconds with Mr. Ice going this season?
It's okay. I mean, it's a fine show. It's nothing. It's no big deal. I like to gamble. I don't really like to talk too much. So I think 300 seconds. Sometimes I go over. I shouldn't go over because I don't have that much to say. As far as IceCon, I'm super excited about that. That is going to be really fun. I had no idea what to expect. We sold about 200 tickets on like the first couple days, which was like more than I thought. Because Arizona, I mean, it's a big buy for people to go. You know, it's not like we're going down the street. So I understand there's like hotel and all that, but it's going to be fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's a good group of people going. We just need 7 goals that night. That's the only thing. If we get if it's a 1-0 game, it's going to be it's going to be trouble, but it's going to be really, DraftKings and Barstool are really doing a good job setting this all up, and we've got some really fun things to go. So it's going to be fun.
That's awesome.
Well, they have the Stars in town that night, right? That should be no problem, right?
Yeah. Well, I had to pick. I was trying to pick a decent matchup, so I had to go. Obviously, I had to go because Barstool, we just signed with DraftKings, so they're like, you have to go to a DraftKings state. So I had to go, and my thing was, I want to go somewhere warm. I'm from Boston. I'm like, I want to get the heck out of here. So I first thought Florida, and they're like, I almost had it booked to be down there, but they're like, no DraftKings in Florida. So I'm like, fuck. So then I'm like, Arizona, but I thought that might be too hard of a push, and then I had to get the right matchups. The Stars have been pretty good for scoring. So, all things considered, I think it's not bad.
So I was listening to Chicklets this morning, and the image popped in my head of it's Mullet Arena. It's a couple thousand people all in white t-shirts and sunglasses ripping their shirts off on the seventh goal. That might break the internet.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to Biz today, and he was just like super excited about how just like the picture, it should be pretty funny. But again, a lot of things have to happen. We have to get some goals, but just us showing up, I think will be pretty fun.
Yeah.
I think anytime you get that many, like you could put 3 or 4 hockey guys in a situation like that, and it's going to get out of hand. That's going to be one hell of a time.
Yeah. We're going to, so it's kind of cool. The Barstool has their own bar out in Scottsdale. So we're going to go there on Saturday. Plus it's March Madness starts that weekend. So I'm actually fine with Dave. So Dave and I'm fine. I'm going to Miami to see Dave for a couple of days. Then we're flying from Miami to Chicago. They're going to do some streams there for the basketball. The tournament starts on Thursday. So we'll do Thursday, maybe half of Friday. Then we're going to fly to Arizona. We're going to have an event at the Barstool Bar on Saturday. And then Sunday we DraftKings Bar and then the game. So it's going to be a good little trip. I'm going to be dead broke. Absolutely dead broke. I mean, I almost was so obviously well known. I had a nice 7-game losing streak. And I never knew I could be that broke again, but I got pretty broke. It was I mean, there were some people calling me like welfare checks on me, seeing if but when my comeback to people on that losing streak is you bet like normal bettors bet like 4 or 5 games a night, right? I mean, I've gone 0-5 easy. I've gone 0-5 easy on a night. So yeah, I went 0-7. That's no just because it lasted for 2 weeks because I was like doing it every other day. But like 0-7 as a gambler, that's no problem.
Yeah. You went to church, didn't you, to try to erase the streak?
Yeah. I mean, I go anyway, but I went to I went sort of twice because I wanted to film a little something. I thought it might reverse on me because I know that's not the right thing to do, but I was trying to listen. When you lose 7 in a row, you try anything. I was ready to sacrifice one of my kids. I got 4 of them, so I was ready to let one go.
Spoon under the pillow, all the the rituals for a snow day and everything.
Stuffing dollar bills in the collection basket.
Yes. I was ready. If that game lost, I was gonna call anybody, like voodoo doctors, like witchcraft, anything. Yeah.
Whatever it takes, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Well, we're glad you're off the schneid, right? So now it's like kind of a clean slate. So what are you seeing this season? We got a lot of new listeners since the last time we had you on, so maybe some of them haven't really heard what you look for when you're picking a game or your whole strategy behind it. So why don't you touch on that again?
Okay, so I'm a pace on play guy. I love watching like a couple games back. Like I fall like 2 or 3 games back. I don't go back too far. But I obviously have the hockey package and I watch a ton of games. I watch them on replay at night, like when all my kids are asleep. And especially I watch the ones that I have my eye on. So I sort of, everybody has their eye on certain teams. And I like to watch, like the night before or a couple games before. Sometimes I watch head to head. I have so many games taped. I'm deleting games because there's so much memory in my TVs. So that's my huge thing is watching them. I love watching them, and I make my decision off of my eyes because stats are great. Some guys are really good with stats. They use the stats to a huge advantages. It never worked for me. I never could get on the right side of that. And like I probably said before, I've been in all kinds of gambling. I bet horses, I bet football, and I've lost in all of them. So I've had this little niche with hockey. For 4 years, I've had a winning record. I mean, I'm not breaking the bank, but we're winning. So that's, in gambling, that's a huge thing. And I'm sort of sticking to what I've been doing. And the thing about it is it's a lot of time, and whether this is actually it is working. Whether this is going to be consistent for 10, 15 years, I don't know, but it's working now, and I'm going to keep doing it until I start losing.
You got like a system you follow, or you just, like you said, you kind of just watch and you go off?
No,
Okay.
Yeah, go off a feel. And you know what I would really like to get on is like a team, and it hasn't happened that much. It's like I want to get on one team for like 7 in a row because it can happen.
Yeah.
You can get like Edmonton and Dallas. Like, what about Dallas this year? If
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have had that handicap. I mean, granted, recently it hasn't been as good, maybe the last 10. But if you take maybe the last 10, if you got on, you wouldn't even have to do any handicapping. It was like 20-4 or something like that. So I would love to get on teams and just not even like have to just be like Edmonton, you know, like getting one of those, even if they run a 5-6 in a row, that's great.
So one of the things I've seen that you've been doing this year is you love these first goal scorer of the game. When you're picking the game, you'll pick one from each team, and I love those. I think they're really fun. And if memory serves, maybe a couple months ago, you were hitting them pretty well.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
what goes into that?
So again, it's just that. So they're tough, obviously. I mean, you're getting great odds, and I like to do one for each team, so at least you have a chance. You know, like whoever scores, at least you have one of the guys. I've actually had a pretty better run at just goal scores. I've been doing one for each team, and I've had a little bit better run on that. Obviously, odds are a little bit less, but that's just another. The problem with betting, in my opinion, is we bet too much. There's so much to bet. There's so much to bet. And I've been better. I'm still not great at it. But if I try to discipline myself to one game a night. Now, it sucks sometimes because you could be like on a Saturday, I might have bet a 2:00 game and it lost. And believe me, I want to bet another game. I've been pretty good. I might have bet one or two this year where I've tilted a little bit. But I just feel like if you can hold yourself to it, if you can do it. And I mean, you know, we're 20 games over 500. Of course, that doesn't include juice. But we're not, you know, you're not going to get hurt. I feel like you're not going to get hurt that way. Even the 7 game in a row, you know, at least it's only one a day.
It's a great way to put it. And just, I think, you know, you talked about DraftKings and the fact that, you know, this is so mass produced now. You know, it's so easy to do. You can do
So
it
easy.
from
So
your
easy,
phone
yeah.
now. It's so easy. Like you said, it's like if you bottom out, go 0-4 in the 7 p.m. games. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a 9:30 game from the Midwest, and then there's 10:30 games from the West Coast.
Totally right. Yeah. It's just, there's so much, you almost like, that's the, you know, as a gambler, that's the hardest thing. The one good thing, well, it makes it a little easier for me is I bet a ton. When I bet it, I push it. And so I can't afford to bet another one. So I have enough to do one. And then, you know, if I really go to the second one, then, you know, I won't sleep that night. So, you know, but I agree, you know, I think if you can just play 1 or 2 games a night, you have a chance to maybe come ahead or break even because it's so hard. I mean, they got the juice. Everything's juiced, you know, unless you're taking a dog, but those are hard to hit anyway. So you're losing 30 cents or 20 cents a night just because you're betting.
The other thing that makes it kind of hard to stay disciplined with that is like in the last couple of years, this like Twitter community of just like gamblers has kind of come out, and you know, you make one bet and then you go on Twitter and you see, oh, you're like, oh, I like that a lot though, what this guy's doing. All of a sudden you're like, well, maybe I'll make both plays or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
it's
You watch
tough.
somebody
One more
else.
couldn't hurt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You watch somebody else, you know, people, you know, after I lose a game, they'll be like, oh, look at this guy went 4-1. You know, you missed this over. You missed this over. And I was like, listen, I want everybody to win. That's the thing, you know, with the haters and stuff. If you make a bet, I want you to win. There's unless I have the other side, there's no reason
Right.
for me not to. And you got people, I mean, but again, I always say, you know, if I have 1,000 followers or whatever, you know, it's 5 bad people, but they're the loudest. So that's the issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 2 of the things you just said have honestly helped me over the past couple of years, especially as gambling's getting more like promoted just on commercials. Stick to like 1 or 2 plays maybe. And then one of the things that you just mentioned and something I'm trying to do, like, you know, maybe you increase your unit size so you actually are doing your due diligence and making sure it's worth it as opposed to just throwing a million different bets out for nothing.
Yeah, it's exactly what. So I am doing the handicapping, whether it's right or wrong, that's another story. But I am putting in the time. I am every single day, tons and tons of effort, and I am sending it in And if it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. But I can I can live with that, because if I'm just like you said, if I'm betting 7 games, but I'm sort of not really studying, seeing what's going on, I'm like 10% on each game as far as researching it or whatever. Then I'm spread. Then maybe cut my unit down, because it's just a hard. Plus, they get the more you do, the bigger advantage they have.
So next question for you, and this kind of ties a little more into NHL action, but we can keep the gambling chatter in there. Any futures that you have on maybe some cup picks, or any teams that you really like to go all the way this year?
Yeah. So, again, with I used to have them all. I used to pick them all the time in the beginning of the year, but now the value is just not. It's not a smart thing to do unless you just wanted to just do it just to say, oh. But I don't. Unless I put action on it, I don't like to give it out to the people, because I don't know. That's just how me personally. If I play it, I'll tell them I played it. And so I haven't done that, just because you can get the value now. And plus you don't have the injuries and all that. Before is you only had a few bookies or whatever. Now the sports book, you can bet a cup every single day. You can bet who's going to win the cup every day. And granted, you could have probably got 15-1 with Florida in the beginning of the year. Now it's probably down to 8-1, something like that, 7-1. Florida's loaded. Florida's absolutely loaded. They can win 1-0. They can win 5-1. They can do it all. They can fight. They can score. They can defend. And if Bob plays like he did last year, they'll be very tough to beat.
Sort of going in the opposite direction, you talked a little bit about, I wish I had a team that I could jump on for 5, 6, 7 games this year. What teams have you seen that have been oh, I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole? Who's been the bottom of the barrel in your opinion?
Well, but last year I made a killing on Buffalo, and they beat me up in the beginning of the year. I just thought it was going to be the same old Buffalo, scoring a shitload and giving up a shitload. But that didn't work. Sometimes what happens good last year doesn't work. So you sort of have to figure out as you go. I feel like I'm always getting beaten by Carolina too. You look at their team and they've got a lot of you look at gifted goal scorers, but they don't score. They don't score.
They're so good on paper. They're
so good on paper. Don't fall. But let me tell you one thing. Carolina is not. They might win a round. They can't score enough. They cannot score enough, and their goaltending is not as good as even the past couple years. So that's one team I'm sure about.
That was their issue. That was their issue last year too. Their scoring fell asleep in the conference final or whatever.
Yeah,
so
not gonna happen. They're not gonna. They can't. They just can't. They're not built. When they got, I think it might have been a year ago or 2 years ago, I really liked the move when they got Max Pacioretty, and he blew out his Achilles real early. They need a 45 goal scorer that doesn't play defense. Just scores, because they got 13 other guys that play 2-way games. They need a guy who just scores. But he doesn't believe in that, and so that's my take on Carolina.
Any thoughts on the Bruins? I know you're up in Massachusetts, obviously, so I know you're in Bruins country. Kind of a weird time for them right now. They were really good. Now they're kind of on the slide, and they got 2 goalies. I know there's a lot of controversy there. Yeah, so the Bruins, they've been unexpectedly really good this year. They've got depth. They have their fourth line is turning into a really pretty neat line. They don't need 2 goalies. They got to trade one of the goalies. Swayman should be the guy, and Allmark should go. And hopefully they're not good enough to win the cup right now. But maybe if somebody gives them a couple players for goalie, Allmark's got term on him. He's got another year. So, he was the Vezina winning goalie last year. I don't know what you can get. I'm not really good with trades. I don't know how what you can get for him, but they're pretty good. They're better than expected, and they're tough, and they're gritty. I don't think that they could beat Florida. Rangers, I don't know, maybe, or I think they were probably 3 in the East right now. And I know this is going to be a question from fans who maybe haven't heard our previous interviews with you, but do you look at goalies when you're looking at the matchups?
I mean, I do look at goalies. That very rarely does it have a decision like one way or another. So, I mean, unless if a guy's playing super hot, of course I'll take that into consideration, but that's not often.
So we're gonna obviously ask you for your cup pick as we do with all guests right before we kind of wrap up. So we'll put you on the spot and give us a West team, East team, and then your winner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably two favorites. So Florida in the East, and then I want Edmonton because I'm a fan. Winnipeg, Dallas. I'll say Florida, Edmonton, and Florida wins, and that's pretty chalky. That's probably 1-2, right? I never pick chalk, but I don't like to pick chalk, but that's sort of. I would be more confident in Florida getting there than Edmonton, but that's my pick.
It's hard to argue with right now.
You can't say the Cats aren't absolutely loaded, and you did, and they are just so good. I mean, they can really beat anyone.
Yeah, they can. They're tough. They, like I said, they have the size, they have the skill. You know, I feel like Barkov and a couple of guys I feel like haven't even got going yet. You know, like if you look at some of the guys' numbers, I'm pulling a blank now, but a couple of guys is just like, you know, they're just like, all right, it's a regular, and they're winning every night. I feel like in the playoffs they just might start going off. So
for sure. I think Florida is probably most people's pick.
I know. I hate to be one of those guys, but
they said, you said they're loaded, and we were asking about your power rankings. I always love reading those on your little loose leaf. I get a kick out of them, and people throw a fit. I'm like,
people get so angry.
Oh yeah. Trust us. We know.
Funny. Part of the fun.
You guys know how you guys have done it long enough to know, the peeps.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Elio, we appreciate it as always. Thank you for joining us. Good luck tonight on your Nashville pick. And
thank you.
I'll say this: if Dave, if you retweet this and Dave catches wind, hopefully we don't get the schlack we got last time. That was crazy.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about Dave. Dave's a moron when it comes to hockey, so he doesn't care about. He could give a. So, like, guys like us, and I consider myself like you guys, we like to talk about hockey. A lot of people don't listen to this, we have our group. There's a core group of guys that listen to it. This guy, Dave, is content, king. All he takes a shit and he gets 1 million views. Okay. So, like, that's, he's not like us. So that's everybody's different. And that's what I tried to explain him on the phone. I said, I like it. He's like, oh, but you're talking about stats and this. I'm like, I like that. You don't. You like fucking carrying a dog around. I don't. I have 4 kids. You have a dog.
That was I think
awesome.
I could speak for all 3 of us. That I don't know if you remember what we're referencing, but it was like in the summer, right after the season ended.
Yeah,
you retweeted one of our clips, being the good guy you are. Appreciate it. And he slammed the clip, and in his defense, it was probably not our best. And our cell phones like overheated for probably 3 hours. It was insane.
I was on the way to a Cubs game with my uncle and my cousin, and I was like, what the hell is going on Twitter right now? It was just mayhem.
Yeah, crazy.
That's just a day in his life, which is that's
crazy,
a whole nother topic. Yeah.
I looked down. I had like 245 text messages. I keep trying to open Twitter, and the app just keeps crashing and crashing and crashing. I'm like, all right, what did we do? Who died?
We died.
Yeah.
Hopefully, hey, I hope he yells at us again. We'll get you some more views. I hope it happens again.
There you go. Well, we appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Always a fun time talking to Elio. Want to thank him again for coming on the show. I think that's like his 3rd appearance, and I got to be honest, I don't know if there's going to be a more electric crowd than the IceCon game coming up. I think March 24th. Don't quote me on that. But
yeah, that's going to be insane.
Going to be a good time. So if you've made it this far, thank you. We're going to wrap it up with trivia. if you guys don't mind, I saw this on the internet and I wrote it in my notes app because I thought this one is good and I want to see how fast you guys could get it. For the sake of time, I'm going to start a 2-minute timer the second I stop reading it. I'll give you guys 2 minutes. There are 4 NHL teams who share a name with another major sports team. Can you name those 4?
Kings,
Wait, hold on. Oh, yes. Okay, sorry.
LA Kings and Sacramento Kings,
Yes,
Panthers, Carolina, and Florida.
shit.
that's 2.
Rangers.
That's
Good one.
3.
Mm,
The last one's the hardest one.
And this is North American.
Jets.
Nice.
That's 4. All right. I thought you guys were going to struggle with that a little bit. No, that was good. Wow.
Do you want me to rip my trivia question too?
How hard is it?
We crushed it last week.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's go.
Rip it and we'll get some hints if we need be.
All right. It's a trade deadline. It's it's timely. So, the Bruins traded away a pair of future Hall of Famers on March 6th, 2000. A defenseman and a forward. They sent these 2 players to the Colorado Avalanche in return for forwards Brian Rolston and Samuel Paulson. Can you name those 2 players that they shipped off?
Bruins to Colorado.
Yep.
One of them's Bork. It's got to be, right?
Yep.
The forward.
Forward. Wow.
Is it a well-known name?
Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
future Hall of Famers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's tough. Nationality?
Either American or Canadian. Let me double check.
Okay, it's North
I
American.
should know.
Any
Like-
thoughts, Nick?
Who in the hell played on the Bruins and then was a forward for the Avs on that? Like,
He's Canadian,
okay.
which checks out.
It's not Tanguay, is it?
No. I could give you another little tidbit here. So he gets traded March 6th, 2000 from Boston to Colorado. After that season, he returned to the team that he started his career with. And then he ended up also finishing it with the Tampa Bay Lightning, where he won a championship in 2004.
Ooh. Won a cup in Colorado. And won a cup.
No,
Oh,
I
no,
don't
he
think
didn't.
so. Because
Oh, okay.
They were 0-1.
Yes, exactly. And he left. So he gets there in 2000. They don't win. And he must have signed with the team he started with, which I'll just tell you is Buffalo. And then he
Okay.
goes,
Andrechuk.
yep, there you go.
There it is. Good job, Nick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Buffalo
Good job.
sold me.
Yeah.
Yep.
We were running short on time, so I figured I'd toss it to you.
No, it's
That was
okay.
a good one.
Yeah.
Two interviews is not every day for us. So
Good trade deadline theme trivia. So
That was a good one.
absolutely. Well, for all those still here after probably an hour and a half, thank you. We appreciate it. Huge thanks to Mr. Ice and Singsy. You guys got any final notes before we wrap up?
Nope.
Caps Cup champs 2024, baby.
Next epi is going to be have a lot of emotion, I bet, if I specifically for myself. So bundle up, gear up. Appreciate you all for listening. And without further ado,
Class dismissed.